Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to do a presentation over particular others and how they shape ourselves for my human communications final project. So first off, what are particular others? Particular others are specific people who are significant to ourselves and how they shape our perspectives of ourselves and our self-esteem and our values. So what exactly does this mean? The self is shaped by the perspectives of our specific individuals. So with that said, most of the time when you're growing up, your primary caregivers and specific individuals in your life are your parents, your guardians, the connections you start when the day you're born, so like your siblings, your older brothers, your older sisters. So here's a little example. A clip from The Help is this woman is telling this child that you is kind, you is smart, and you is important. This is important to the child when she is growing up because she is getting the sense of value in herself that she is kind, she is smart, and she is important when she's growing up. So personally, here's a picture of some of the significant people in my life. When I was growing up, my two parents were two of my primary caregivers. They would tell me every day, not every day, but like they would be ensuring that I am smart, I know my worth, all of this other stuff. And from that, I developed a positive self-esteem and perspective on my life. So with that said, there is 4 different types of attachment styles. And what are they? They are patterns of caregiving that teach us how to view ourselves in our personal relationships. So like I was saying, there's 4 of them. So secure, fearful, dismissive, anxious, and ambivalent. So the first one is the secure, which I was saying is usually when you have a positive self-esteem and value based off of your primary caregivers and how they would speak to you and give important qualities on their life. So, for example, primary caregiver communicates consistently in an attentive, loving way. So here I have a picture of Danny Tanner from Full House. This was one of my favorite shows when I was growing up. He would constantly remind his 3 daughters every single episode that they are important, they are smart, they are kind, and promote self-value within themselves. So you would see throughout the storyline of the seasons that they were happy individuals, they had a good, loving home, and they grew up in a nice, caring manner. So the next one is fearful, which means the caregiver communicates in a negative, rejecting, or abusive way. A lot of the times the child feels unworthy of love, unworthy of developing relationships with others because their primary caregivers give off a negative value towards themselves. The next one is dismissive. It differs from fearful, but it has some of the same attributes to it. The caregiver communicates in an uninterested, rejecting, and abusive way. It differs from fearful because the child dismisses others as unworthy, but they have a positive outlook on themselves. So a lot of the times they'll grow up understanding that they were neglected as a child, but it wasn't that it was their fault. It was more because their primary caregivers were unworthy of them, and they grow up thinking that they are more important than other relationships and building with them. The next one is anxious and ambivalent. This is, I believe, this is the most complex attachment style because the caregiver will be inconsistent in their ways of treating their child. Usually it will sometimes be loving, and then another minute it will be neglectful. A lot of the time the child grows up not knowing how to build relationships and understanding what other relationships mean with other people. So the way their primary caregiver treats them makes them anxious of establishing other relationships with other individuals, and a lot of times they grow up not knowing how to form relationships. A next part of particular others and how they shape ourselves is life scripts. So the quote for this is rules for living and identity. So a lot of the times every family has their own different types of rules and life scripts within their own home. It's communicated at a young age and formed early. So growing up, you might have heard your parents say, don't live on credit, be kind to everyone, know your worth. Some other stuff. It shapes how we go about our life and how we basically establish like what we think and what we believe. A lot of the times it is challenged later in your life. You grow up And when you turn 18, you go out on your own and you can start changing what you think and feel about it, and maybe make your own life scripts for later in life when you have your own family. So with that said, the self is shaped by our perspective of others and how they feel about ourselves. So if you were neglected as a child, you probably have a fearful and dismissive way of establishing relationships. Hopefully that's not the case. I grew up in a positive environment and was very blessed and fortunate to grow up with caring and loving caregivers. And as you go on, you will develop other particular others in your life. So it could be a boyfriend, it could be a friend, it could be a grandparent, a family member that you later on establish a connection with. Here are some references from the class I used from Human Communications, and that is a wrap.